And because we are recording now, I am going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Nolen Davis. This is Up Social Network, and this is our daily call. There's a lot going on, a lot of information that's out there. A lot of people don't really know how to get grounded, and that is what this is for. I want to give a big shout out to all of my members out there, Up Social Network. You know that we absolutely love our members, care about your family, care about our community, and we care about your businesses. And this is an opportunity, literally, to build your business in one of the most trying times that we've seen in a long time. So how do we keep our heads on straight to do that? How do we focus on being a better person after this situation? Well, one way we do it is we do it together. And so I want to do it together with a very good friend of mine, right? Dr. Sunita Punjabi. Her and I, we've been friends for a long time. We've been working on a lot of different things. Her heart is exactly where my heart is. We look at all the time saying that we need to get with people with the same mindset. And I think that's great. And she's going to help you get the mindset and change your brain and make everything link up and do all of these things. But me, I got to be extra. I take it a step further. I'm looking for the right people with the same heart set as well. And so that's why we're doing these calls, because I want people to truly want to make an impact, and your success or your monetary success comes from the impact that you make as a byproduct. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to give it up to Dr. Sunita. If you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, this is day 3 in what we're doing, but tell people about yourself.
Definitely. So for my university that's out in Chicago, I want to let them know I am Dr. Punjabi, ABD. What that means is I am still doing a correlational study. Actually, my correlation study is using veterans to show the need for purpose for engagement, which is so timely because we're going to talk about that today. But I am a neurotherapist. What does that mean? Neurofeedback is based on the science of neuroplasticity, which is mean that we know the brain is plastic, like the liver, and now we're saying even the heart. The brain can regrow. The research is out whether we can actually fix something that's broken, but we can grow new highways in the brain. So that's what this is about, partly for me, is helping people build new highways, because we've never been down this road before. And we have some choices that we're about to make day to day, moment to moment.
Absolutely.
And so that's what this is about. But Nolen, I'll let you lead the discussion because I got stuff, but you know, if I let you lead, I'll probably not go astray. I got so much to share.
Well, you know, you sent me some information earlier today, and one of the things that we're really talking about today, and one of the things that we were finishing up on yesterday, is removing limiting beliefs, right? So a lot of people don't really realize what a limited belief is, and how it really restricts us from living our best life or even to our potential. So you want to go into that a little bit?
Sure. So a limiting belief gets created, the core limiting belief. Now there's a lot of limiting beliefs that pile on top of each other. And eventually you have, at the neuroscience level, what we call a paradigm. It's a group of thoughts that live together, a group of beliefs in this case that live together, but they get created early in life. And you know, your father could have been Gandhi, and your mother could have been Mother Teresa, but the fact that you're a human being means that the minute you were born into this world, you actually made some decisions right away. Because if you were pulled out by forceps, or you came out, imagine you're in your mother's womb. And I want to go into this a little bit to understand where limiting belief comes and how deep they can be, how deep they can run our programming. But you're in your mother's womb and you're sitting in there and it's warm and it's, you know, you got all the food you need. You don't have to cry. Every single need you want is met. And then all of a sudden, born, you're born into this world. It's cold. Someone might have been pulling you out of forceps, or, yanking you out. Either way, you're going to cry. It's not a positive experience. And the first thing this brain learns is this is a dangerous world. And, you can't help it, because that's the mechanism, that's the wiring, that's the machinery, is to sense danger. So almost the first thought you're born into is, oh no, what happened? And you are born. Okay.
Right.
And then you start piling stuff up. Now, so I want you to really understand that innocent child doesn't know anything, and it's born and it realized first thing, it's a dangerous world. And then imperfection. All of a sudden you got to cry to eat. You're wet. You got to, make some noise. Your mom's not right there. Your caretakers are not right there. So you keep starting to learn not only the world, that there are some things that I'm going to struggle with, and beliefs start to get created. Now, there's also good beliefs that get created. The challenge here is that the brain likes to focus on the negative because, again, we're not talking about soul. We're not talking about spirit. We're strictly speaking about the neuroscience, the machinery. The machinery of the brain is going to remind us of all the bad things. That's the default of the machinery. So you start to have memories, good memories included, but what you will know, like with living color and with great detail, are the painful experiences. So now, again, you did have good experiences. Some of you may remember, loving mother, good friends, your favorite toy. I'm not saying that you didn't, but the tendency of the machinery, and again, what I mean is the wiring of the brain, is to remember with great detail and remember it with a lot of frequency, the painful times, right? So in these painful times, Nolen, the brain makes meaning. So I got left at my school. No one came to pick me up, right? I'm in pre-kinder, and I'm an immigrant to this country. So I automatically assume I don't fit in and I'm not lovable. Because all my friends, because they're a different color than I am, because I'm like the brown girl here from India. And I already got evidence that I don't fit in. So that day when I was left, boom, add another belief to the system, the paradigm. Not only am I not like everybody else, I'm different, but I'm not wanted, because nobody would have left. I would just left there, right? Now, did I realize that my parents were doing everything they could to get to me? At that time, I didn't. Do I realize it now? Yes, I do. And I've talked with my mother about it, but it doesn't change this neuronal pathway that was formed. Now, here's what happens in life today. And I won't talk about how old I am, but I'm older than 4 years old. But in my life today, if I don't get a return phone call from my friend, or, you and I don't get to I called you, you didn't call me right back, my brain wants to go to see, I knew I didn't matter. I don't even matter to Nolen. Now, we're not even aware. Like, this would be so easy if I was aware that I was hurt that you didn't call me back. Right. I don't even aware. Now, what I am aware of, we talked about a mental muscle. If you exercise this, you will be aware of a feeling that will come over you. And this is how the first thing to getting to limiting beliefs that are stored below the level of our awareness, it is a feeling that comes over you. And I'm going to take a break for a minute. And Nolen, do you have any questions, or do you want me to highlight anything up to this point?
No, I just really want to, for those that are just getting on, because there's a lot of people that are getting on right now as I'm looking. For those that are just getting on, what we're going over is limiting beliefs that people have and how they get them from a very young age. So she was really taking us through the whole birth situation, showing how that it's a very abrupt change from comfort and feeling love to now we're in the world, and now we start forming these ideas at a very young age and how that applies to how we think right now. So what we're going to be talking about is really removing those limiting beliefs out of our lives so we can be much happier and much more effective in whatever it is that we do. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no problem. And I think in a time, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, the decisions that we make today, what is going on is unprecedented. And I have this huge sense of urgency, Nolen, that I got to maximize this opportunity. Like, right? Like remember we talked about, there's a pony in here somewhere, right? God has got some blessings in this for us, and we got to be vigilant. So
right.
The reason we're talking about limiting beliefs for all of you that are listening in is because if never before, and like never before, the limiting thoughts, because we're afraid, beliefs that are deep stored in our subconscious are going to come out. They're like never before, possibly, because everything that we know is questioned right now. Our government, we don't know, who can we trust? Can we, we can't go outside. We can't do the things we used to do. We're out of routine. Right. And that's so important, right? Because when we're out of routine, we're definitely unrested. And when we're out of our normal, right? Our comfort zones are so interrupted at this time. So limiting beliefs right now are having a field day with our brain. And that's, again, God gave us a brain, and it is to protect us, but the brain doesn't know the difference. The machinery does not know the difference between surviving and thriving. So it is running programmed limiting beliefs right now. And it's like, look, we're surviving. We got food, we got shelter. What else do you want? So let's just do what we need to do to make the day work. So we're watching TV, we're watching news like we've never before. And we're not only watching news, we're also, yesterday we talked about, we are not being discriminatory over what is the truth. And that's part of the mechanism, right? It's looking for meaning. The brain is looking for data. So limiting beliefs are very relevant, more than ever before. So that's why we're talking about it. But I'm sorry, your question was, I got into why limiting beliefs are a subject because of fear right now. What was the next question?
So my thing is, how do we remove these limiting beliefs?
How do we remove them? So we said the first step was, if they're languaged, it's easy, right? The limiting belief in language, the most common limiting belief, by the way, based on research, are feelings of or thoughts of inadequacy. I'm not good enough, which leads to other things like I'm not lovable, I can't do it. So that's one of the most common limiting beliefs in all the different forms. And what we need to do is, I can get you a list, Nolen, and we need to post that, of common limiting beliefs. And we kind of looked at, across human beings, what these look like. So that's really important, because when it's in operation, when you have a limiting belief that's in play, so it's running, you need to be able to recognize it. And you could be speaking Hindi, which my family does, or English or Spanish. They're all, no matter what part of the world you come from, what language you speak, they are the same beliefs. which is so amazing in a way, because we're all human beings, right? We all struggle. But so the first thing is you got to identify it in language. Now, a lot of people tell me, and this is where I kind of stumbled into this, and I think it was a God thing that I found this. But a lot of people would ask me, well, you know, I keep having the same belief. Like I noticed that I do different things, but I still keep getting these results, right? And I think about my belief, and I know it's wrong, but I keep bumping into the same results. Now, you know, when you look at it, I really want you to understand, if we go to results and we go backwards, right? And a lot of y'all understand this, but sometimes it's good to write it out. Results come from actions, and actions come from a feeling that we're trying to have, and feelings come from thoughts. So I really want you to understand. I should, like, this is so, okay, here it is. So results come from actions. These actions come from feelings that we want to have. We want to feel loved. So, you know, we do things to feel loved. We want to feel wanted. So we dress up. But feelings all come from thoughts, right?
Right.
So we have a thought, I'm not enough. So I have a feeling of inadequacy. And then that feeling of inadequacy has me take actions, which produces results. So the seedling of all results that you are observing in your life was originally a thought. Okay. Now you can say, well, Sunita, something happened to me, right? Somebody did this to me, or the government.
I was going to say, or this virus, right? Or the situation has happened, right? And so, and that's exactly what I'm trying to get to with these things that we're doing here. So, okay, go ahead. So this thing happened to us, and now what?
This thing happened to us, right? So that is not in our control. But I'm going back to the results that you observe, because some people will come out of this better. Their business will be better. They'll be stronger. They would have reinvented themselves if they needed to reinvent themselves. Is it me? Is that foggy?
No, that was me. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. But so it is our feeling and thoughts about what's happening that gives us our actions. So the statement is still true. The statement is that the reality that we are observing and experiencing is a response that we have to what's happening. So, right. So a lot of people will take what's happening today and they will take actions that will be life-changing. And again, come out of this. Other people will take actions and come out of this and go backwards in a lot of different ways. So what, you know, if you think about it, 2% of the world, and I think this statistic is still relevant. If anybody's out there wants to check it out. I know that 2% of the world's population controls 98% of the world's wealth. Do you think that's pretty accurate still?
Yeah, something like that. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we, and you know, I'm a researcher, so I'd like to have the accurate data. But the point is, what is it that the 2% do? If, I mean, we're talking about the world's wealth. So what is it? It's a way of thinking, and it's a way of looking at things. Opportunities are present for different people. Now you can say, well, I didn't get the education. I didn't get this opportunity, or, you know, my mom was this and my dad was that, or I was born in a third world country. But the bottom line is, you can take any circumstance that you may be experiencing. And again, I'm totally open to people telling me that I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any circumstance that you may be experiencing that has not been experienced. We see people that have missing limbs that are playing sports. Okay. So like, just amazing things that are happening.
Right.
Today in stem cell work, we are having the blind people are seeing because of what we've learned about stem cells. So, I mean, like, so what's the difference? The difference is how you viewed it. And the way you viewed it presents opportunities for action, right? Now, if you have a view, and we talked about, if you have not trained yourself to know the color red, or if you have not trained yourself to see a flying machine, right? We have some we have some remote populations.
Aborigines. Aborigines, yeah.
We have some remote populations that when they see an airplane, they cannot recognize it. It does not register in their perspective. They've never had that experience. So today we know that they see this thing and they think it's something magical. We know that Christopher Columbus, we have documentation that when the Nina, the Pinta, and the Maria, when the ships were coming, the Indians, the Native Americans, thought that they were dragons. And we can see this written out in the Native American, their communication tools, right? And because they could not, they'd never seen a ship like that.
Right.
So this is going back to what can you conceive as possible? And that's all about perspective. So when you have limiting beliefs, this can really stop you from seeing what's available. So that after you identify the limiting belief in language, the first thing is to question it. Okay? And then the second thing is to ask yourself, is there a possibility of the opposite? And some people call this opposing reality, for example. So if I think I just can't do it, I just can't do this, like this is just too hard, which is a common belief. I'm not going to succeed, if you think that, then the opposite is not a positive. The opposite is, have I ever done it before? Or has any human being ever done this before, right? So then you look for that. Now, literally, Nolen, when you ask the opposite and look for the possibilities, what happens is you are beginning to rewire the brain. Now, I use machines. Neurofeedback is actually using the brain's natural systems to coach the brain in a different direction to optimize brain frequencies. However, we can do that. It just takes discipline. And we're talking about that right now. What we're talking about is retraining the brain by asking Socratic thoughts, by asking Socratic questions, so we can redirect frequency pathways. So if you think, and I knew I should have brought this visual, and I will have it, Nolen. I will go already in San Antonio. We're already in sort of a lockdown, but I can go to my office because this would be deemed important. So I can at least go pick up.
No, you don't have to go to the office for me. This is not that important. So, all right, what you showing us?
I'm showing you a neuron. It's a
okay.
Bad picture because I can't draw real well.
Okay.
But that's a neuron. Okay, it's what they look like branches. These are the cells in your brain, right? Neuronal cells, right? So they're neurons that are firing. So when you look at these things, and when you redirect your thought by questioning them, so let's say we know that thought is electrical, right? How do we know thought's electrical? E equals mc squared. Remember that, right?
Okay.
E equals mc squared. So electricity equals mass moving at the speed of light. Well, what do we know thought is? What do we know with total certainty that thought is? At a very science level, at a very physical level, right? It's electrical, because we talk about brain frequencies. And we can measure alpha, beta, theta. Those are the common ones. And then there's delta and things like that, right? There's 5 common and then there's more. But when we say it's a theta frequency, we're talking about the speed of the move of this electrical impulse. So if you can imagine, a thought is an electrical impulse that's traveling. And they don't really even touch each other. There's just a synaptic gap. And there's an electrical impulse that travels, and that's a thought. So let's say I've got a thought, I'm recalling something and it's here. So when I want to recall the color red, that data is stored here. There's actually a visual electrical impulse, a request for information that travels from my eye to this location where I have the information stored. Now, this is a very simple explanation I'm giving. There's more to it, but the fact is there's an electrical impulse when you're trying to recall information, you're trying to understand anything. It is electrical, all right? Electricity, thought, is mass moving at the speed of light. Okay. What is mass? Mass is anything that's real. It's got a density to it, right? It's stuff. So when we say thought moves stuff, right? Like this is happening. We know in quantum physics, we don't think this anymore. We know it's true. We know that what we know, reality is through the perspective of the observer. It's all through the observer. And now there's more to quantum physics, and that we won't talk about today because you've asked me to identify. But I want you to understand, if you can hold that thought captive and you can begin to question it, you are beginning to rewire your brain. Because our current level of thinking, Nolen, is insufficient to give us the results that we want, because these are unprecedented times. So more than ever before, we've got to be able to question our thoughts, because we're going to go to the past programming because all we got is the past. And if all we got is the past, we're going to keep getting what we've gotten. Right or wrong?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why they say history repeats itself.
That's right. So if all we got is the past, and we got, like, we never seen this before. So we're going to inaccurate data, most possibly, to try and make decisions, right? So now we've got to be really active. So the question is the opposite of this true? So in other words, am I good enough? Let's say the limiting belief is I'm not enough, I can't do it. The question is, have I ever done it before? Have I ever been good enough, right? So then you really want to get in great detail, when was it that you were good enough? So I have a young girl, real simple case. She is so thin. She's so thin. She's a size 1 or 2 that you can see the food in her stomach moving. And she has a belief that she's too fat, right? Now, she has a distorted self-perspective. When she looks in the mirror, she really sees fat, like really sees it. She doesn't think she's thin. So I asked her, is it ever been true that you were thin enough? In other words, it really is being enough. And she said, no, I've never been thin enough. I've always been fat. And I said, was there ever a time where you could have been thin enough? And I said, what about when you were a baby? And Nolen, I looked at her and she couldn't think of a time. It took effort for her to think of a time when she was enough, when she was thin enough. Okay, hold on one second. Can you hear that noise? Does that bother us? Okay.
No.
Because, we're all working at home, and I've got my son here. But she could not think of a time, because the brain it's traveled a certain way for so long. And if you can imagine, the neuronal highways are like grooved paths. Like if you've ever taken a walk on a familiar path, like there's no grass growing, it's not rocky, it's smooth. Now around that path, there's tall grass, right? But if you can imagine, inside your brain, there are these pathways. And so she could not think of a time where she felt she was thin enough or she was enough. So I said, what about when you were a baby? Do you remember being 2 or 3 years old? Because we talked about that before. Nolan, are you okay? Okay.
I am.
I got a message at our internet. Okay. So it's going to take a little effort for you to consider a time when the opposite was true. So she thought about it. She said, yeah, I mean, I was 3 years old. I remember being 4. It was my birthday. And I said, what was that like? So she said, I danced. And you could see, Nolen, when she said she danced, and I had her go with it, right? And she's like, well, I danced and I played and I was with my friends. And she talked about the details of feeling enough. At that moment, at 4 years old, she felt she was thin enough. You really want to spend time on the opposite of your limiting belief. Why? Because there's so much time that has been spent on your negative belief, on the limiting belief. I mean, your brain has evidence. It's got like hardcore evidence of why to believe the limiting belief. There's no question. So now, since we're trying to reprogram and we're trying to have a new way of looking at this, we've got to spend time on what does the opposite look like. So in other words, what was that? So then I asked her a question. My next question to her is, so it's not always true that you were always fat? And she looked at me, she said, well, no, I wasn't always fat. I mean, yeah, when I was younger, I was thinner. And I said, so the belief that you're fat, you're not thin enough, is not always true. And she said, well, no, it wasn't always true. And I said, now let's take the opposite. Do you know with total certainty that the opposite is true? Do you think that there was, like, are you always thin enough? Are you always going to be thin enough in the future even? And she said, no, I don't feel enough right now. So then I said, okay, neither one of those beliefs passes the test of veracity, right? And for those of you that are interested, there's a great training on this. Dr. Wayne Dyer did an amazing job. And this is also from, if you're interested in looking at I'm sorry, she's not Dr. Byron Katie's work, and you can look that up. But the question is, if neither one of the neither one of the statements pass the test, which one of those beliefs align with the life that you want to create? And you are one of the few creatures on God's planet that can think about your thinking. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So if neither one of those beliefs passes the test, which one aligns? So this is when we're getting back to our conversation, our first day, I believe, when we said, what is the truth? What is the truth? And what I want you to get at this discussion, and I want a lot of people to be careful, don't take this out of context. But what I want you to understand, when you are trying to change your limiting beliefs, you have to look at it very logically, okay? Is the belief true? Is it always true? Okay? If it's always true, we got to have another conversation. If it's always, the opposite is always true, I'm not even saying that, right? That's why positive thinking, Nolen, doesn't work. Because a lot of people think, I got to think positive, I got to think positive, I got to think positive. That's not what I'm telling you to do. What I'm telling you to do is to question it and be logical. If it's not always true and the opposite isn't always true, where do you go? This is what it comes back down to, is who do you say that you are, and what is the reality that you're committed to creating?
So is that when we take the actions that fall within the realm of who we choose to be? Because at that point in time, it's a choice, correct?
Yes, but not yet, because this is very important. Before you can take the action, you have to choose, and you have to get really present to the consequences of not making this choice. Most people do not choose limiting beliefs, do not change limiting beliefs. They do not change their ways of thinking because they are numb to the consequences of their thinking. And the simple question, who would you be if you could not have this thought? That, that's huge. You need to get really present to who you would be if you could not have that thought. And what happens is all of a sudden the numbness of limiting beliefs. So a common limiting belief right now is, this is bad. This is bad and the world will never be the same. Is it true that this is bad? Could be. Is it true that this could be the best thing? That a lot of great things are going to come out of this? I don't know. Okay. Do I know any one of those with total certainty? No. But which one of those beliefs, like this is going to be bad, or there could be some blessings coming out of this, right? Like those are the two thoughts. Which one of those is going to get me to take actions that are aligned with who I say I am? So then you choose. And then from that choice, from that awareness, because now, remember, you asked that question. The question was, who would I be? So that stops the numbness. And now you're present to the consequences. Now you can make a really good choice. You've got to go through those steps, though, Nolen, before you take action.
So is that why everybody says, when they say, I remember I went to a landmark training at one point in time, and I literally almost got in a fight with the dude, right? Yeah. Right? Like, so, and I think I told you this whole situation, but when they were saying, I told them I wanted to make $1 million from nothing, right? Yeah. And so they were like, no, you just want to feel like a millionaire, right? You want to do, so live as if you're like a millionaire, and let's dissect that. And that wasn't the thing for me, right? But I understand what they were trying to say. It just didn't work for me. I literally, and so I asked the question. I asked them, I said, do you want somebody to feel like they ran a marathon? Or do you want them to actually run a marathon and have that accomplishment of, I did it? I literally want to make $1 million from nothing. It's nothing that I want to buy. It's nothing that I need. I want to say I took an idea and made $1 million from it. The only way to do that is through the process of doing it, to say that I did it, right? So my question to you is that why people say, hey, you need to just live as if you are a millionaire right now? Is that an easy way or a short-term way or a shortcut of saying live as if you didn't have that limited belief?
Right. And let me explain the science behind that. So what we know is, now a lot of people think if I do what a millionaire does, in this case, right, I will be a millionaire and I will have the results that a millionaire has, right?
Be doing half, right?
So, but most people think if I do. So this goes back to, you have to be, because it's a law of physics, right? It's not even philosophy. We're talking about tomatoes. You could be allergic to tomatoes, but if you plant tomatoes, you get tomatoes. If you plant tomatoes, you could be allergic and you could pray for onion. But if you plant tomatoes, the law of nature tells us you're getting tomatoes. A lot of people go onto a computer screen and they're trying to erase the results. You can't. You have to go in and you have to program it. And then what you observe on the screen is the results of what you put in.
Right.
Right? So we've got to go in and we've got to program the wiring so we can have what shows up on the screen align with what we wanted, what we programmed it, right? So the laws of nature, now this gets into another really powerful law of nature. It's called Ohm's law. Ohm's law, those of you that are interested, is an electrical formula. It's a physical science formula, like it's from hard science. And it says that when you look at an electrical socket, do you remember Ohm's law?
I do not. I feel like we talked about it before, but I don't
Yeah,
remember.
and you loved it. You loved it. You said,
Right,
oh, man.
because I remember talking about it, but I don't remember it right now. But go ahead. What is it now?
Okay. And I mean, I think when we boil down to what we're doing, we're really using Ohm's law. Ohm's law says that you take the power available divided by the total power. Sorry, it's the total power divided by the resistance, and you will get power available. So let's look at, it's an electrical formula. So if you look at an electrical socket, there's all this charge coming through. But the way it's set up so it doesn't explode is there's a resistor, there's a resistance. Because if all the power comes through the electrical socket, you could have a shortage, right? So
Right.
you have resistance. Now, what does this have to do with limiting beliefs? And what does this have to do with reality? And what does this have to do with the time we're in? Total power divided by your resistance is the power available to you. So in other words, if we look at it, and I know I'm just like, oh man, okay. So you look at the total power divided by your resistance is the power available, PA. Power available are the options available for action. So what is your resistance? It's limiting beliefs. It's your past.
Right.
And I'm not kidding. This is big.
So this is the mathematical equation of you are literally in the way of yourself.
Yes.
That's exactly what that is. So if I have less resistance, then the power available is much greater. And that's almost the way of going with the flow. When people say, I'm just going with the flow, and they just believe that here's how everything should be. And they believe that everything, that almost luck, right? Like this is how I become to be lucky, because I just believe I'm lucky and everything just comes to me, because you literally removed your resistance, and the power that became available is much greater than maybe the average person.
That's right. And resistance is old ways of thinking. Resistance is because the power available to you, and the possibilities, which is power, right? The thoughts available to you right now is limited by your past, which is where the resistance comes in. And again, we went back earlier to saying we've never seen times like this. So now what I can do is
before you move forward, I just want to, for clarification purposes, the other part of resistance could be the people who have a bigger spiritual base or more faith probably has less resistance. That's probably a very possible state, because they have the faith in God or whatever their higher up is, and they're like, hey, there is no resistance. God is going to make a way for me, and so my what's available, my power that's available, can be greater.
Nolen, you hit something that is like, I don't know what to tell you. It is so, just a nugget, right, of a distinction came out of your mouth right now. Just a diamond. But so I was born in India. I was raised a Hindu. I actually researched a lot of different belief systems. And I'm going to tell you bottom line, what I found is that the brain needs faith. I'm telling you as a scientist, because the wiring is defeated. The machinery is to think lack. The machinery is to think insufficient. The machinery is, I'm not going to make it. So when let's say our limiting beliefs are going to hit us, and why do we have limiting beliefs? Because we're human. So the humanity of us is just going to hit this wall. The only way we're going to be able to pass our limiting beliefs is, you're right, and one of the things is going to be to have faith, because then the programming can be thought, your past programming. So your past has always told you that you weren't good enough, but your faith has told you, yes. And not only are you good enough, there's an intelligent designer that's got your back.
Right.
What then happens is you're able to surpass the programming. Now, I'm not saying that as a scientist, right? I'm not saying as a scientist that faith is the only way. I cannot prove that. What I can tell you is that when you believe there is an entity that has your back, you are able to shortcut past programs.
Gotcha.
What happens is you are able to access like a certainty in an uncertain time. Because you can get lost in the logic. We can analyze this thing to death. And we're going to, like you and I are going to, we're going to be rational. We're going to use science. But when it's all said and done, even Ohm's law is a physical law of the universe, right? All of this is debatable. But there's a knowing, and we get to a point where, okay, who came up with that? And who came up with that? And who said E equals MC squared? Well, it's a physical law of the universe, right? Albert Einstein, right? But then who came up, right? We could keep going. And I kid you not, that is happening. People are not sure of what they know, what they thought that they knew. So this is happening already. So what we come down to is, what do I believe and what do I have faith in? And with that faith component, we're able to shortcut the programming. I have used my machines, and it's on my Facebook. I know I should probably pull it back up because of the way Facebook works. I was in a church setting, and in a place of faith and worship, and I had a woman that had a stroke. I did not know that she had a stroke, and I had my machine on her brain. So she's had a stroke. I did not know she had a stroke on her left side. So we recorded the brain activity with this technology. We're looking at alpha waves. You can see it, and you could see the left side had minimal activity. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a bad wire. So then we asked her to start praying. And she was meditating, and she was repeating things, right? A mantra that she has. And Nolen, we saw activity on the left side. Now, I had scientists that told me, oh, it was the air conditioner, that's what my machinery was picking up. And I want to tell you, the air conditioner was on before, right? And it was on after. So it's called an extraneous variable in the world of science. So I was told there was an extraneous variable that skewed my results, right? Those are fancy words like something was there and it wasn't her. I was there. We had 45 witnesses in the room to this. You can see it. I have a picture of it. It's a little embarrassing because I had to take my shoes off because I couldn't stand anymore. I mean, this just took a power of its own. I eventually took my shoes off. So the picture that I have, you can see all these women. The picture that I have, I don't have any shoes on, but I will make the picture available if you'd like to see it. But Nolen, what we did is we were able to pass the programming. So if we go back to the method of destroying limiting beliefs, and again, some beliefs are healthy and they're needed, and some of the things you've learned from your past are going to protect you. I am not saying you should question every thought that you're having, right? Because I don't want you running around thinking about your thinking. That would just be dysfunctional. But when you are having a belief that you feel, and your feelings are a gift, right? That you feel anything that is outside of your norm, which I mean, as a creature, on a planet that works in perfect homeostasis. This planet, the only time we lack anything is when we mess with it as human beings. When we have things that disrupt homeostasis, you look, there's a human being behind it. This planet works in perfect homeostasis. So if you are a creature on this planet, your perfect state, Nolen, is total joy, total abundance, total availability of resources, right?
Right. And that's kind of where I live. I like to stay there all the time. Total joy is kind of what they call me.
But that's our natural state, right? Why, if you can believe in an intelligent designer, because it's logical, because we said the other day, the mathematical probabilities that this thumb is a random explosion of gases, that the mechanism of the human body was just chance. The math is not there. So science is indicating that there has to be an intelligent designer. So why get created by an intelligent designer to have you suffer? So what is your natural state? And this is all just a logical way of following through with things. Your logical state is perfection, is homeostasis. Everything's available, nothing lacks. So if you're feeling anything than total abundance and joy, then that's the belief you want to question. It's the one. You got it?
I got it. So for those that are, because some people are tuning in right now, we're talking about removing limited beliefs or limiting beliefs. So what I want to do is I just want to go over the steps. I don't want to just give me the steps so we can kind of wrap this call up of what are the 5 steps, what do we need to do, and then just kind of go from there.
Right. The first step is identify the belief, right? And the reason that I asked you to involve your emotions is because some of the beliefs, the core beliefs, are stored so deep, they're not at the level of your awareness. You got to identify the belief. Language the belief, right? So write it down. That's the best thing to do so you can see it in front of you. Now, the minute you write it down, you become mindful. We talked about yesterday, you put the belief in front of you and it loses its power because there's a distance. Next thing, question the belief. Is it true? 4th question, is it always true? Next question, who would I be if I could not have this belief? So you just play a game. I can't think this belief and you can do it. So what would I do if I didn't have this belief, right? Like then all of a sudden you become aware of the consequences and you become aware of the choices that a whole level of awareness becomes available that wasn't before. What would I do if I couldn't have this belief? The last thing is which one aligns with the future that I want? Like in other words, my commitment or the future that I want, because we'll get into commitment in another phone call. What are you committed to, right? So then the final thing is you choose. And you choose moment to moment. And it is a moment to moment thing. It's a moment to moment battle. But those are the steps. And then you take action, right? I guess that would be the very last step, is take action aligned with the life that you want and the life you want to create.
So what I want to do is I want to get it in the frame mind of businesses as well. So it's something that I feel like we can do, but businesses take their own shape and form, right? And it's almost like another entity. So I'm almost curious to see how those questions, as you asked from a business standpoint, because think about how fast could your business grow if you removed the limiting belief in your business, right? So if we always think about it from a standpoint of I'm running the business, but then you still put your belief on it, your limiting belief of I don't have an online process. We don't have enough people to run and implement the processes that we have to take care of more customers, right? So it's almost I'm looking at what you're saying So how do we do that? And I want to do that, and we'll probably talk about that on the next call. We're getting to about an hour right now. So I want to go ahead and shut it down. If people want more information from you, or they want to sit down and talk to you a little bit more, it says, are these the steps or did I miss one? Oh, I got people taking notes over here. We can literally put them out. It says, 1, identify the belief. 2, question if the belief is true. 3, who would I be? What would I do if I didn't have this belief? 4, what would I do with what I believe? And 5, take action with the life you want. Are those the 5?
Yeah, in between though, make sure that you ask, is it always true? And is the opposite always true? When you ask, is it always true? And then the next thing, yeah, who would I be? And what would I do, right? Like actions become available and then you choose. So I will have this, Nolen, I will put it out. We will put this, I will send it to you.
Okay.
We can post it. But yeah, and because I need to get on the call for a young person that I'm helping. We're doing a lot of Skype. But here's a question. If you think about how it looks, right? If you're the Wright brothers, or in my business, right? When all of this happened, I see people, they come into my office. So the first belief is, oh my God, this is going to destroy my business. And we're never going to recover from this. So is it true? Is it always true? What if I couldn't think the thought that this whole thing, this whole crisis is going to destroy my business? What if I couldn't think that thought? Who would I be?
Right.
What would I do if I couldn't think the thought that this is going to destroy my business? Well, I'd look for other ways to build a business. I'd look for other ways to get my message out there. Okay. And then I call Nolen Davis. Right. So
as you should. I agree wholeheartedly. I agree wholeheartedly.
So now actions become available because I thought, who would I be? What would I do if I couldn't think this thought? And then if it's not true, it's not always true, right? That this is gonna destroy my business. Has there been other adversities that I thought would destroy my business and I've overcome them? Yes. So since that's not true, this is going to destroy my business. The opposite is this going to make my business, right? Is this going to make the brain coach name? I don't know. But which one of those aligns with the life I want to create? And then you choose. So think about the Wright brothers, right? Mm-hmm. Flying machines. Do they exist? No. Can a man fly? No. What if, though, could it be possible that a man could fly? And you think about any invention or any leader that's had to make a decision, right? You think about Martin Luther King, you think about Mahatma Gandhi. So Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, the thoughts that they had they just said that it stayed with their limiting beliefs and the evidence that was, but what they did is they questioned.
Right.
And they said, what if this was this? What action could I take? And they took action from there. So we're not talking about anything that has not been done before. We're just writing it down. We're boiling it down to a simple method because the tendency of the brain right now is not to do this.
Right. All right. How can people contact you?
Brain Coach, Dr. Sunita Punjabi, ABD. You can look me up, Brain Coach, 210-884-1200. I am still answering my phones right now, so you can leave a message if you can't get to that. But if you go to the Brain Coach website, you will find it. It is under construction. I'm adding more and more stuff to it. So thank you for your patience with me.
Hey, I appreciate you. We're gonna be. I got some people of mine. I got some family, pretty much. Amira and her guy. They're doing something, and I'm supposed to get a link sometime soon. So I'm gonna post a link up really soon. They're doing a DJ party. It's absolutely free. Turn to it and get some good music. Hey, we're Up Social Network. We're here for our members. What we're trying to do is really get the mindset together for people to make sure that we come out of this thing on top and that we come out together. Hey, I'm Nolen Davis. This is Sunita, Dr. Sunita Punjabi. Hey, until next time, love to live to love, and be well.